Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Michael, and welcome along to our VAT Proficiency 2025, the quiz. So we're running through, having a little bit of fun today. It's all about you marking your own questions as we go as well. We don't track the score. It's all about your participation. Session today should last around about 60 minutes. We'll try and get through it a little bit quicker if we can. Now, as usual, a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. You don't need a microphone for any of our webinars. If you do have one, you will find it's muted automatically. You can't unmute yourself during the session. So if you do have any questions or comments that you do want to submit in the background, you can do that. You just need to access or click the little speech bubble icon, which is on the toolbar down the right-hand side. Give it a click. It'll expand the panel and you'll have access to that box in the bottom right-hand corner. So comments, questions, click send. Just myself running the session today though, so I'll not be typing any answers. I'll just read them out if there are any questions or any queries. But obviously you've got to prioritise the quiz questions. Now, as normal, the session is being recorded, so if you do want to have a bit of a recap, or maybe you want your colleagues to test their knowledge, see how many they get right, then do share that with them. The link will be included on your follow-up email. On that follow-up email, which you'll receive around about an hour after we finish, it'll also include a link to our upcoming webinars. So our next badge will be available to get yourself booked onto from next week. That'll be looking at managing your data. And then in September, we'll also be running one on the report designer. So do watch out for those. They should be advertised by, hopefully, by the towards the middle of next week, I think, at the latest. Anyway, let's get started. So just as a reminder, this is what we've been covering over the past 2 weeks. We also covered these sessions in June as well. So today is the mandatory part of the webinar series. So if you've attended 5 or more of the 7 proficiency topics, attending the quiz will essentially push you over the line to earn that digital badge. The badges should be issued towards the end of next week once we've compiled the results. Right, okay, let's have a look at our quiz then. So what are we covering in today's session? So basically we're covering a range of topics which correlate to the sessions that we've been running. We've combined a couple of them together. So VAT return, we'd run sessions 1 and 2. We just combined that into one sort of section of questions. So we'll have some questions on tax, the tax code session, the VAT return, the VAT verification settings, running reports, corrections, and then we've got a bit of a surprise for that final round. Maybe not a surprise if you have attended our quiz sessions when we ran them last time. I recognise some names on there again. So hopefully you get top marks this time round as well. Just at the end, if there's any outstanding questions, we'll pick those up. I'll try my best, and then we'll open to any Q&A if there's any. I'll try and pick some of those up as well if I can. But obviously quite a bit to get through. Now the way that it's going to work today, obviously it's just an opportunity to test your knowledge, see what you've learned, have you retained any of that, and maybe identify any knowledge gaps. So if there's questions on there and you're not feeling confident or you don't get them right, remember the recordings are available so you can revisit those sessions that we have run. So we've got a number of rounds, each relating to the sessions we've been running. We'll be using the poll facility that's built into the webinar platform, and we'll sort of share the responses as well so you can see what people have voted for. It doesn't name names, so have a go of the questions. Don't worry if you get one wrong. And the answers will be given at the end of each round as well. So as I say, results aren't marked, but do keep a copy of your own score. And good luck. So without further ado, we'll get started. And round 1 is about the tax code session. And some of you may know some of these anyway, even if you didn't attend that session, so have a go. So as I say, we're going to use the poll facility today. So first question, I'll pop that on your screens. See if I can see it myself. So where can you view and amend your tax codes? Is it A, in settings, company preferences, B, settings, configuration, or option C, settings, control accounts. So if you're not sure, have a go. Now, what I'll try and do, I'll give you a good chance to answer that, but we can't wait too long for those answers. So some of you may have the software open as well, and you might think, actually, I'll just have a sneaky look in the software, just see if I can get that right. Right, loads of you voted there. If you didn't get a chance to vote, don't worry. So we've purposely put the letters at the beginning there as well, so you can just write A, B, or C if you're marking your own questions as you go. So I'll close that poll. I'll share the results with you. So you can see we've got 38% of you voting for option A, settings company preferences. Only 3% of you going for settings control accounts. And 59% of you going for B, settings and configuration. And we'll come back to the answers in a few minutes' time. Right, next question, question 2. So question here is, what is the default tax code for non-VATable transactions? So is it A, T0, B, T2, or would you use C, T9? Helps if I click launch as well so you can see that. So what is the default tax code for non-VATable transactions? So loads of responses coming through. This is a common one as well, something that we did cover in the session, differences between T0, T2 and T9. Some people do get them mixed up. Right, again, loads of you have voted there, so I'll just close that poll, share the results with you. So we had just over 20% of you, or 21% of you, voting for A, T0, 7% of you going for T2, and the vast majority of you, so 72% of you, going for option C, T9. Again, we'll reveal the answers in just a few minutes. So let's hide that one. Right, final question in this round, question 3. Where can you configure the F11 and F12 keys? So is it, again, something that we covered in the tax code sessions, really good little tip, this one. And I know I've had a lot of feedback on this, either people loving the fact that you can configure likes of F11 and F12 to open web pages. Obviously, we identified one of the probably one of the most commonly used support articles as well. So that help center article on the how to find your tax code, which tax code should you use. Again, one of the most common queries that we often receive. Which tax code should I use for this transaction? Right, again, loads of you are voting, so keep them coming. I'll give you another 10 seconds or so to reply to that one. So if you're frantically going through your software, have a quick guess. Really good function. Again, if you haven't done that, or you didn't attend that session and you're thinking, what's Michael on about? I'll show you how you can do that in a moment. Right, let's close that one. And again, I'll share the results with you just so you can see what people have answered. So 12% of you gone for option A, configure them within settings, company preferences. 26% of you going for B, settings, configuration, and 61% of you going for tools and options. Right, let's head back to the slides. And if I can find the right option, we're going to run through the answers. So question 1, where can you view and amend your tax codes? Correct answer for that one is within settings and configuration. So you'll find it, you may find it a little bit different as well from possibly from what we had on screen. But if I just quickly share my screen for a moment, if you do need to check your tax codes, just settings at the top, very first option, configuration. And then you will have a tax codes tab at the top. So again, might look a little bit different to what you can see on my screen there. But if you go to tax codes, and it will list the tax codes that you've got set up. So you can always highlight them, and if you need to, you can go into edit them as well and check out the various settings. Remember, there is that list for both UK and for the Republic of Ireland, separate articles, but you will find that within the available from within our help centre. So if you did get that right, give yourself a point. Question 2. What is the default tax code for non-VATable transactions? So the correct answer to that one is T9. So again, something in the tax code session, we highlighted this one. People sometimes use them, sort of get them mixed up. So common one is when you're entering bank charges. That was the example we would have used on that session. It's very common for people to use T9, but actually bank charges in the UK are classed as being exempt of VAT. So you would normally use T2 for that one. But your non-VATable tax code, T9. Question 3 was where can you configure the F11 and F12 function keys? And you can do that within tools and options. So we demonstrated that one in the webinar at the time. Again, just quickly point you in the right direction, just in case you're thinking what's he on about. If you go to tools and then into options, and on the environment tab, you've got these two options here, F11 and F12. By default, F11, when you press that, when you're working in Sage, it will open your Windows control panel settings. And F12 by default would open the report designer itself. So where you can actually design the reports. So a lot of easier ways to get into the report designer. It's very unlikely that you'll probably access it that way these days. So you have the option to configure those. So you can put a little bit of code in here and there to do other things, whether you want that to open Excel, or in this case, what we demonstrated was a little bit of code followed by the relevant path to the relevant Help Center article. So the one in this case for accessing the which tax code article. So if you ever get stuck, you can just press F12, it launches the article for you. You can follow that through and hopefully find the tax code that you're after. Right, back to the slides. Next, we've got our biggest round of the quiz, which is round 2, and it's all about the VAT return itself. So let's start with question 4. So question is, what's the first task you should complete in the VAT return wizard? So again, is it A, take a backup, B, enter your VAT period, so your start month, your end month, or option C, check your verification settings? Now, there's no hard and fast rule for this one, I must say that. So in theory, you can do any of these options, but which one would we recommend that you complete? Great. Okay, loads of you voting again. Do get those votes in quickly. So I'll share the results with you for what people have voted for. So 97% of you, so the vast majority of you, option A, take a backup. 3% of you going for B, enter your VAT period, and nobody going for that third option to check your VAT verification settings. Again, all will be revealed in just a few minutes. Question 5. Can you manually undo a VAT return once it has been reconciled? So can you manually undo that within the software? So simple one, this one. Is it a yes or a no? So if you've for instance, if you've reconciled an error, can you undo that? It's one of those, I suppose sometimes people go into the VAT return, they go through and they pop their date range in, etc. And then they'll go to calculate the figures, and maybe out of habit, they'll click reconcile. And actually they were just going into just to check their figures, and before you know it, they've flagged their transactions. So can you manually undo that? Right, again, loads of you having voted, so share the results with you. So vast majority going for option B, no, and 19% of you that answered that question going for A, which is yes. Again, all will be revealed in just a few minutes. Right, question 6. So once you've calculated your VAT return, can you then alter the transactions that affect it? So can you still make changes if you've calculated your VAT return? Now be careful with the wording, what I've put there, before you answer that one. So once you've calculated your VAT return, can you then alter the transactions? So yes or no? Again, I see all the votes. Really quick to answer that one. So loads of answers coming through. That's great. Love to see you getting involved. Excellent. Right, let's close that one. Again, I'll share the results with you. So again, vast majority going for A, yes you can, and B, 3% of you going for option no. Right, on to question 7. So question 7, find the right button there. So question 7, when posting the VAT transfer, which two nominal codes is the reconciled VAT transferred from? Is it A, your sales and purchase tax control accounts? Is it B, your sales tax control account and the VAT liability account? Or is it option C, the purchase tax control account and the VAT liability? So A, B, or C. So we're talking about there, when you get onto, you've reconciled it, the VAT transfer option, top left corner on step 3 of the VAT return. When you click that transfer option, where is the reconciled VAT transferred from? Great, loads of you voting again. Right, I'll close that one, share the results with you again. So 91% of you going for option A, sales and purchase tax control accounts. 6% of you going for the sales tax control account and VAT liability. and 4% of you going for the purchase tax control account and the VAT liability. Again, all will be revealed very soon. Right, question 8. What does it mean if a VAT return status shows as pending? So when you're looking in the VAT ledger, you've got your VAT return listed because you've already reconciled it. It's now listed. But in the status column, it has the term pending. So what does that mean? Does it mean you haven't made your payment yet? The VAT return hasn't been submitted? Or option C, the VAT return has been calculated but not reconciled? Again, this is something Matt tends to go through quite a bit in the VAT return part 1 session, where he takes you through that process. So A, you haven't made your payment. B, the VAT return hasn't yet been submitted. Or C, the VAT return has been calculated but not reconciled. Just in case anyone's wondering as well, there's no pass mark for today either, so we don't record that at all. It's just again just to test your knowledge. Have you taken a lot in? Do you know a lot? Maybe you've missed some sessions because you assumed you knew it, but we'll see if you get the answers right. So it's a good way of testing that knowledge and just bit of a check for you. Right, let's share the results for that one. So 2% saying you haven't made your payment yet, 78% going for option B, so the VAT return hasn't been submitted, and 20% of you going for option C, the return has been calculated but not reconciled. Right, now the final question in this round. Launch that one. So more of a statement, this one. You can manually mark a VAT return as submitted. Is that true or is it false? So can you manually do it? Again, I know Matt spends a lot of time. This is something that we cover in generally in part 2 of the VAT return when we go through that. So the reconciliation, sorry, the online submission, those final tasks that you complete. So can you manually mark a VAT return as submitted? True or false? Not sure if that's an easy one or not, but loads of answers coming through very quickly there. I'd share the results again with you. So 77% of you are going for option A, yes, sorry, true, and 23% of you going for option B, false. So let's get on with some answers in that case. Make sure I've got the right screen shared again. So round 2, the answers. So question 4, what's the first task you should complete in the VAT return wizard? So you had 3 options: take a backup, enter your VAT period, or C, check your VAT verification settings. Now you can actually do any of these. You can enter your VAT period if you want. You can actually click to check your VAT verification settings, but we would always recommend, and this is why it's the first option in step 1 of that VAT return wizard, take a backup. No excuses for not taking a backup before you run that VAT return either. Please do not be the person that rings us up and say, right, I've just reconciled, I've spotted a mistake and I do not have a backup. That's why it's step 1 on that wizard. And that sort of alludes to an answer in just a moment. So again, if you chose take a backup, give yourself a point. So links in nicely with this question. So can you manually undo a VAT return once it has been reconciled? The simple answer to that one is no. Now, some of you did choose yes for that one. So I'm not sure if you thought, well, does he mean if I restore? Yes, that does undo it, but you're not really manually undoing it there. You've got to restore. That's the only way you can undo a VAT return that has been reconciled. So essentially taking you back to that point in time when you took that back up. So again, give yourself a point if you choose no. Question 6. Once you've calculated your VAT return, can you alter the transactions that affect it? So the answer to that one is yes. Now I try to emphasize the wording there is once you've calculated your VAT return. If I just quickly show you, I'll quickly share my screen for a moment. And if we go into a VAT return, so if we specify, I'll just do the period we normally use for the demo. So when we calculate the VAT return, so it'll generate the figures, etc. So we'll find some late entries in my case. And what I can do, although I've calculated, I can still close out of that return. So I can still alter the transactions that impact that return if needed. Just be a case of closing out, making whatever changes, and then coming back in. It's the reconciling. That's when the transactions get flagged, the VAT return gets created. So it's almost like it's cast in stone at that point. But as long as you've just calculated and not reconciled, then yes, you can alter the transactions, post additional transactions, etc. Giovanna, you mentioned there, just going back to the previous question, I thought you could manually unreconciled, but it takes forever, so it's not recommended. No, you cannot undo a VAT return reconciliation. You can undo a bank reconciliation, so there's options in the software to do that. Even if you wanted to go through the transactions one at a time, you can unflag them, but not with the VAT reconciliation. So you can't remove flags or anything for those transactions. The only way you can undo that is literally to restore. So anyway, answer to question 6 is yes. Right, back to the slides. We'll crack on question 7. When posting the VAT transfer, which two nominal codes is the reconciled VAT transferred from? So correct answer there is the sales and the purchase tax control account. So normally it's a 3-line journal. So the reconciled VAT on the sales side is essentially journaled out of the sales tax control account. The reconciled purchase VAT is reconciled out of the purchase tax, and those two values are transferred across to the VAT liability. So that would be the other line of the journal. But again, remember, you've got that option in step 3 at the top, just to click the option, just to do that journal automatically for you. So here's the correct answer for that one. Question 8, what does it mean if a VAT return status shows as pending? The correct answer for that one is it means it hasn't been submitted. So it's never been submitted online via your software. So under MTD, that's something that is essentially mandatory now to submit online to HMRC. Or if you're based in Ireland, obviously once you've made your submission, you would go back into your VAT return and you would tick that box to say, right, you've submitted that online. But until that point, a VAT return that's listed and hasn't been yet submitted will have a status of pending. Again, I'll just quickly show you that one. So I should have some in the background. So we got one there. So status of pending. Just in case anyone was wondering about answer 3 there, which was the VAT return has been calculated but not yet reconciled. For a VAT return to be listed, it's got to have been reconciled. You can calculate a VAT return, close out of it, but until the point it's reconciled, it will not appear on the VAT return list. So for that status to show as pending, it means it must have been reconciled. So option or answer B is the right answer. Right, question 9. Links in very closely with that previous one as well. You can manually mark a VAT return as being submitted. So answer to that one is true. So it's a little tick box within the VAT return. So if you have done it manually, again, if you're in the UK prior to MTD being introduced, you had that option of submitting online via your software, or you could have done it manually. And that's when you would have gone into your VAT return to tick the box to say, right, I've now submitted that one. So a nice little tick box, that one. Again, I'll just quickly show you that one. So this one is flagged as pending. Again, some of you may have older VAT returns which still have that status if you've used Sage for quite a while. So you can go into your VAT return and you say, right, actually, yeah, I've submitted that one. So tick the box, close, and it'll show it's been submitted then as well. Right, back to the slides. And we're going to move on to our next round. So round 3 was all about the top 5 questions that Matt took you through. So question 10. Where can you see which tax codes, which helps if I click the launch option so you can see the question. So question 10, where can you see which tax codes belong to the VAT boxes in the VAT return itself? Option A, use the drill down in the VAT return. Is it B, going into settings, configuration and tax code? Is it C, helping about? Or is it option D, settings, company preferences? So where can you see which tax codes belong to which VAT box in the VAT return itself? Again, loads of votes coming through. Try and get them through quite quickly if you can. See them coming through. Bit of a divide on this one. Excellent. All right. Show you the results. So let's see where the answers have gone. So 83% going for use the drill down in the VAT return. 15% of you going for settings, configuration, and then tax codes. And then 2% of you going for option C, help and about. Again, we'll see the answers in just a few minutes. Question 11. Can you post a journal to appear on your VAT return? Is it A, yes, or B, no? So can you post a journal so that it gets included on your VAT return? Again, votes coming through quite quickly here. I'm trying to bite my tongue here as well when I'm reading out the question, so try not to give too many clues away. Try and save that for the answers section. Excellent, loads of you answered that one. So again, I'll share the results. So 85% of you going for yes, you can post a journal to appear on your VAT return, and the rest of you, 50% of you going for no. Right, cover those in just a a minute or two. Right, final question of this round. Now, there's multiple answers here. So you can choose multiple answers. So question 12, why might your figures not match the control account balances? So why might those figures essentially on your VAT return not match the control account balances? So those figures on your sales and purchase tax control account. Is it A, they should always match? B, is it future dated transactions? Is it C, because of your VAT scheme? Or is it option D? Or is it also option D? Is it non-VATable journals or post to the control accounts? So remember, you can choose multiple answers there. So a little bit more to think about on that one. It's probably one of the more, I suppose, the more complicated topics that we cover, where we're looking at things like the reports and saying, well, why don't they match? Okay, brilliant. So I'll just again share those results with you. So 6% of you that chose option A, they should always match. 78% of you also said option B, future dated transactions. 39% of you went for option C, VAT scheme. And 55% of you went for option D, non-VATable journals or posted to the control accounts. So quite again, one of the more complex options. So if you did attend the VAT reconciliation report session, you might be familiar with that one. Right, let's hide that one. Just checking which question we're up to. Right, okay, let's have some answers. If I can find the right, if I can find the right button again. Right, so question 10. Where can you see which tax codes belong to the VAT boxes in your VAT return? So simple answer to that one. This is something that Matt covered in when we covered part 1 of the VAT return wizard itself. It's to use the drill down. It's by far the easiest way. So when you're looking at the VAT return, I'll just quickly show you this one. When you're looking at the VAT return, I'll just quickly run it again. Not that one. Run the VAT return, I'll specify the relevant VAT period, calculate it. So it's the drill down. So if we click into, say, the drill down for level 1, against box 1, sorry, then you can drill down and it'll show you which tax codes essentially will impact that particular box of the VAT return. Also gives you the breakdown of that by transaction type as well, if you want to learn more about how your VAT return calculates. But using the drill down is by far the easiest way to get at that information. There is information in our help centre about your tax codes and which boxes they do impact on and how they'll be picked up. But the correct answer to the question was to use drill down. Now, just anyone, in case I know quite a few of you chose settings, configuration, and tax codes as well, but that doesn't tell you which boxes it will impact on. So if you use T1, for instance, your standard tax code, it doesn't say, right, that's going to be picked up in box 1, in box 4, box 6, box 7, etc. It doesn't go to that level. So easiest way, when you calculate the VAT return, use the drill down. Right, on to question 11. Can you post a journal to appear on your VAT return? And the simple answer to that one is yes. Now, the vast majority of journals you will post with your non-VATable tax code. You will use T9, so that the journal doesn't get picked up on the VAT return at all. So things like bank transfers, posting salary journals, introduction of capital, those are transactions that you would not want to be included on your VAT return. But as long as you, when you're entering your journal, if there are certain elements that need to be declared, and I think, was it yesterday, we went through and we mentioned a little bit about the sale of an asset, for instance. On that, quite often you would enter journals for that type of transaction, and it's just a case of declaring the relevant lines and posting them with a VATable tax code. So there may be elements of a journal where if you need them to be picked up on a VAT return, you would use the likes of, say, T1. So yes, you can post a journal to appear on your VAT return. Question 12, why might your figures not match the control account balances? And this was the option to select. Select the answers that apply. Now, answer A, they should always match. That's not the case. There will be loads of reasons why they might not match. Not forgetting the following three. So one of the common reasons, unless you're reconciling right up to date, so you've entered nothing beyond the end of your VAT quarter, you would probably always expect your control account balances to be different to what's being calculated on the VAT return. If you've entered future dated transactions, there'll be VAT on those control accounts that you haven't yet accounted for. So they won't be picked up on the VAT return that you're looking at. VAT scheme as well can have an impact. So for instance, it's very unlikely if you're on cash accounting that the boxes would ever match. So if you've got any outstanding invoices and you're on cash accounting, the boxes are never going to match just because of the way that the program calculates VAT. And then finally, non-VATable journals are posted to the control account. So if you have posted a non-VATable journal, rightly or wrongly, obviously it'll be picked up on the likes of the activity against the relevant control account, but it will not impact on the VAT return itself. So again, another reason why it might not balance. If you got well, let's say we get a point for each of the correct answers there. So if you got all three, or if you're maybe just a little bit lazy and think, oh, I'm going to choose all four, yeah. Let's say give yourself three, but if you choose option A as well, deduct a point. We're not that generous. Right, let's move on to round 4, the VAT verification settings. So nice simple checks, these ones. So question 13, VAT verification settings. A, indicates something is wrong with your data. B, I'll try and put it on your screen again. Keep getting caught out by that. So let's start again. So question 13, VAT verification settings. A, indicate something is wrong with your data. B, indicate potential issues and something that needs to be reviewed. Or option C, therefore HMRC to verify your VAT return submission. So which is right, A, B, or C? So what do you think? Do they indicate something is wrong? Indicate a potential issue? Or is it C, for HMRC to verify your VAT return submission? Again, loads of votes coming through there. Loads of answers. Great. So I'll share those answers with you. So a vast majority going for option B. They indicate a potential issue and should be reviewed. 2% of you going for indicate something is wrong with your data. And 2% of you also going for HMRC to verify your VAT return submission. Again, we'll reveal the answers in just a couple of minutes. Question 14. So the settings identify an invoice that has not been updated. So you might remember that's one of the checks. So settings identify an invoice that has not been updated. What should you do? A, just ignore it. B, check it and update it to the ledgers. Or C, delete the invoice from invoices and credits. So A, ignore it. B, check it. C, delete it. Excellent, loads of votes there. So I'll quickly share the results. So everyone going for option B, check it and update it to the ledgers. Right, let's switch back to the slides then, and we'll get cracking with some of these answers. Right, answers to question 13, VAT verification settings. Answer to that one is B, that indicates something is potentially wrong and needs to be reviewed. It might not necessarily be wrong. So if you remember, one of the settings is a transaction not using your most commonly used tax code where you've got it set to T1. So it's just an indication that, you know, these transactions aren't, something's out of the ordinary, an anomaly maybe. So option B just indicates something is wrong and needs to be reviewed. Question 14. The settings identify an invoice that has not been updated. What should you do? Is it just simply, let's just ignore it, sweep it under the carpet, just forget about it? The answer to that one is B. Actually, you should check it and, if necessary, update it to the ledgers. Now, you could have chosen option C as well, technically, because you might have in the past, you might have entered an invoice and actually done nothing with that. It's never been updated to the ledgers. So you might have put it on, you've saved it, customers come straight back to you and say, actually, just cancel that. So rather than update it, you've just left it there. So it's highlighting something. Potentially, you've got an invoice which you've entered, it's on or within or prior to your VAT period. Does it need to be updated to the ledgers? So it's that bit of a reminder, just to jog your memory. It's trying to identify that and ideally boost your confidence and avoid those situations where you think, oh, I've reconciled my return now and I've got some invoices that I haven't updated and I should have. So ideally, check it and update it. Next, we're coming on to round 4. So let's have our next batch of questions. So question 15, what's the simplest way to see how a value on your VAT return calculates? So this is something we covered quite a few of the sessions. Again, I'll click the right button so you can actually start voting on that one. So what's the simplest way to see how a value on your VAT return calculates? Is it A, use the drill down, B, use the VAT return detailed report, or C, use the daybook reports? again, answers coming in thick and fast for this one. So this is something I covered in the VAT report session, this one. Excellent. Let's quickly share the results with you for that one as well. So majority going for, or the majority going for A, use drill down, 33% using, going for use the VAT detailed report, and 6% of you going for to use the daybook reports. Next question. In step 2 of the VAT return wizard, when generating VAT reports, why might a report be grayed out? So why might a certain report not be available to you? Is it A, the user does not have access to the report? B, the report isn't applicable to your VAT scheme? Or is it option C, no transactions for that report are included? So A, B, or C? Brilliant. Okay. Quickly share the results. So 9% of you going for A, user doesn't have access to the report. 36% going for B, the report isn't applicable to your specific scheme. Or 56% of you going for option C, no transactions for that report are included. Question 17. What might cause a transaction to appear on your VAT return but not be included? Oh, I can't see the wording of that one today. Let's see if I can make that box a bit wider so I can see the wording of the question. So what might cause a transaction to appear on your VAT return report but not be included on the relevant daybooks report? Is it the tax code, transaction date, or C, already VAT reconciled? So why would it be on your VAT return but not be included on the relevant daybooks report? Again, this is the kind of thing that catches people out when you're running your reports, trying to check those figures. Excellent. Loads of answers to that one as well. So 17% of you saying it's the tax code, 77% saying it's the transaction date, and 6% of you going for the transaction is already VAT reconciled. Right, let's get back and we'll get on with some of the answers. So, first one, question 15, what's the simplest way to see how a value on your VAT return calculates? We've covered this one already in some of the other questions. Use the drill down. We can't stress that one enough. It's such an easy option, just drilling down on the figure. So again, it's one of those common support queries, people contacting our support team and just saying, well, got this figure, it's higher than expected, it's lower, or just in general, where does that figure come from? And just clicking on the figure itself will give you that table broken down by transaction type, by tax code. It's the easiest thing to do. So again, point if you chose option A. Question 16. In step 2 of the VAT return wizard, when generating VAT reports, why might a report be grayed out? Basically for that one, it's option C. It means that no transactions for that specific report are included in the return. Now, there's only 2 of them will actually grey out when it comes to running the report. If I just quickly share my screen, I'll show you this one. So I'm on step 2 of the VAT return. Make sure I've got the right screen shared. Yep. So on step 2, if we go to print VAT return, you'll see that these 3 at the top will always be active, but you can see adjustments is grayed out, and sometimes you might get earlier unreconciled transactions that may be grayed out as well. And it means that you've got nothing included in your return for that specific report. So I haven't posted any manual adjustments. If I had posted a make adjustment, popped a value in, this would then be active. This one would be grayed out, but in this case, I have 3 transactions which we did include, and therefore that is active. If you haven't got any earlier unreconciled transactions included, you'd find this one is grayed out as well. Right, question 17. What might cause a transaction to appear on your VAT return but not be included on the relevant daybooks report? So the daybooks report doesn't look at tax codes. It includes that information, but it wouldn't be filtered from the report just because of a tax code. Similarly, your daybooks report, it'll show whether a transaction has been reconciled or not. But again, it's not going to not appear on that daybooks report just because it is VAT reconciled. So it's down to the transaction date, something to be aware of. Again, we highlighted this in one of the examples on the VAT report session. So if you've got late entries, they're going to be included on your VAT reports when you run them from within the VAT return, but they would be excluded from the daybooks report because you're probably going to run that for the same date range as the VAT period itself. Okay, quickly moving on, we'll pick up on round 6 or just about our final round. So question 18. What happens if you delete a VAT reconciled sales invoice? Is it you can't? Is it B, the invoice deletes? That's it. Or is it C, a credit note is posted to reverse the invoice? So think about that question. What happens if you delete a VAT reconciled sales invoice? What happens? Can you not do anything? Just simply delete it? Or will the software post a credit note? Brilliant. Okay, loads of answers coming in there. So nearly a quarter of you saying you can't. 10% if you're going for option B, the invoice deletes, that's it. And 68% if you're going for a credit is posted to reverse the invoice. Question 19. So testing to see who was paying attention. So which of these is a non-critical transaction field? So which of these is a non-critical transaction field? So when you go to edit a transaction, which of the fields that are listed is classed as being non-critical? Is it A, the tax code, B, the date, C, the reference, or D, the net amount? So key part of that question, non-critical. Excellent questions coming, answers coming through thick and fast there. So I'll quickly share the results on that one. So this was my session I delivered just yesterday. or if you did attend in June, Matt would have delivered that session for you as well. So I'm glad to say everybody went for option C. So are we all right or are we all wrong? And then the final question, if a reversing transaction is posted, when will it be included on your VAT return? So if you've got an invoice dated, let's say in January, so it's been reversed by the software, when will it be included on your VAT return? Is it A, it won't, B, it will automatically adjust the original VAT return, or is it C, you should include it as a late entry in the next return? So A, B, or C? Again, answers coming through thick and fast there. So nobody went for option A, it won't. 4% if you went for option B, it will automatically adjust the original VAT return, and 96% if you went for option C, you should include it as a late entry in the next return. So let's quickly run through the final three answers, and then we've got that special round, that final round for you. So question 18, what happens if you delete a VAT reconciled sales invoice? Answer to that one is answer C. A credit is posted to reverse the invoice. So if you try to delete a VAT reconciled sales invoice, rather than it saying, are you sure you wish to delete this transaction, the wording of that message will change to, are you sure you wish to reverse this transaction? So a reversing transaction will automatically be posted for you. So it'll have the same details as the original invoice, same date, nominal codes, amounts, etc. Question 19, which of these is a non-critical transaction field? Vast majority of you went for the reference field. So it's really the non-critical ones, or the ones that you would class as being a text-based field. So reference, extra reference, details, description. And then the final question of the quiz. If a reversing transaction is posted, when will it be included on your VAT return? And basically, you should include it as a late entry in your next return. Nothing will adjust the original VAT return. So if you've got an invoice that's VAT reconciled, there's a reversing transaction, such as the credit we've just mentioned on the previous question, it's going to have the same date as the original invoice that's already been reconciled. And when you run that VAT return, it'll not only look for transactions that haven't been accounted for in the current VAT period, so those unreconciled transactions, but it will also look for any VATable transactions from the previous period. So it would identify the likes of the credits and say, right, we've found this one, do you want to include it or ignore it? And you should, in that instance, include it as a late entry. So well done if you got that one. We're going to quickly move on to the final round. Now, the final round is an anagram. So what I'd like you to do is, if you can work this one out, I'm going to hold it back just for a second. If you can work this one out, type your answer into the questions panel. So remember to click send as well. So here's your anagram. Something to do with what we've covered today. So activate fitting versions. So an anagram of. So if you do work it out, pop your answer into the questions panel. Remember to click send. We'll see how quick someone gets it today. No points for this one, just a little bit of fun to tag on to the end. So what's that an anagram of? Can you work it out? So activate fitting versions. We'll see if anyone gets it. It's probably the harder one. I think me and Matt were discussing this one. That says you can't just put like ATV. I think that's too easy, that one. So some of you have been on the quiz before where we have used this anagram, so I'm going to try and ignore your answers. I knew you would get it right. But yeah, starting to come through now. So I'll reveal that answer. It is the VAT verification settings. So those 7 or 8 checks when you're running the VAT return, 7 or 8, depending on the level of software you're on. It's the purchase orders, that's the difference between them. So that's what it relates to. So well done if you got that one right. Becky, you put nope, didn't get that one. And Colette, you mentioned clueless. No. So yeah, a bit of a harder one, that one. Right, okay, so just bring us to the end of the quiz. Let me know how many you got today. Did you do well? Did you not? Do you think actually a little bit more for me to look at? Maybe I'll watch the recordings, have a bit of a recap. So do let me know. Just pop a score or a comment in the questions panel. Remember, if you've got any questions, there was a question came in earlier from, let me see if I can find it. I think it was quite near the start, Diana. Hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Do we get a certificate? You don't get a certificate, but if you've attended at least five of the 7 sessions, the different topics that we've run, plus obviously you've attended the quiz session now, then you will qualify for the digital badge. That should be, all the details should be sent out via email. That should be sent by the end of next week. A little bit of a delay in sending them out so far, but hoping to send them all out by the end of next week. Any other questions you think of? Remember, loads of information in our help centre. And of course, our support team is on hand as well if you do get stuck. Right, just while I'm waiting for people to put their comments in about scores, etc. Let me thank you for coming along. I hope you've enjoyed the quiz today and also the series in general. If you've got any thoughts on the webinar series, the badge series for VAT, let us know. Do take that opportunity to complete the survey that pops up as you leave. We love reading those comments just to see if we've hit the mark or not. Is it the kind of thing that you were after? So do let us know. Remember your follow-up email. We always try to, if we remember, which we do on the majority of occasions, the follow-up email, it will include a link to the recording of today's session. There will be a link to our webinar registration page, and also there will be a link to the recordings. By the end of next week, we hope to have our 2 next digital badge opportunities published. So in August, we'll be looking at data management, and in September, we will be looking at the report designer. So watch out for those, and when they are on there by next week, set yourself a reminder to visit the webinar registration page and get yourself registered for them. I hope to see you on them soon. Loads of scores coming through. A lot of you got really high marks. So obviously, Lisa, you mentioned you've obviously been listening, so you've done quite well. So again, just a little bit of a recap, a little bit of fun, just to test what you have taken in. If you have spotted those, maybe those where your knowledge is lacking a little bit here and there, and you want to develop that, remember those recordings. Those recordings are available for you. So that link's included on your follow-up email. Right, we'll end the webinar just at that point. Many thanks for coming along, and hopefully we'll see you again very, very soon. Many thanks.